Hey everyone, and welcome to Screams After Midnight. I am Peter, and joining me as always is Tim. This is this is a horror movie podcast, and it is October. It is the Octoberthon, which means we are doing countless episodes. Well, it's not countless; it's about 31 episodes during October. And this episode is about a Mexican film called Tigers Are Not Afraid, which came out this year. Got a lot of buzz. We're excited to check it out. It is available on Shudder, should you wish to do so yourself. We will start spoiler free as we always do. We'll give you a warning before we go into spoilers. But Tigers Are Not Afraid is a film focusing on children in Mexico, in a city that is basically a ghost town because the drug war has claimed so many victims that there's children who are left behind without parents, that there's just children who are on the street living, and that's who we focus on in this film. We focus on a few kids like that, and they get into trouble with some of the cartel and the local gangs, and it kind of follows that. But there is kind of a fantastical element to it where some supernatural stuff kind of may or may not be happening as well, and it goes along with that idea. So, Tim, this film is backed heavily, not produced or anything like that, but has been heavily praised by one Guillermo del Toro, who you know, fawn over endlessly, unfortunately.
Of course,
So, very curious to ask the question, Tim, did you enjoy Tigers Are Not Afraid?
I did. I thought it was really well made. I enjoyed watching it. It's like, I don't know if this is gonna sound like a complaint. It's kind of weird, but like, it was kind of like exactly what I like expected it to be. Like, and I had like heard people kind of, putting this in the horror-ish genre, and obviously it's on Shudder, which is, the big horror streaming service. But like right away I knew, I was like, come on, this isn't going to be a horror movie. Like, it's, and like obviously there's that fantastical element, and that's, I see where the horror comes into that, and like, those scenes are done very well, and like, that there's good horror in it, but that's like not really, I wouldn't really say that's the crux of the film. The crux is like this, these terrible situation that these kids are in, which definitely was, very powerful and moving. And this movie is like super depressing, which it's hard. I don't like, I think I used to really, really like these movies like in my younger days, and now like I don't know, I'm like always like so depressed that I don't enjoy watching these depressing movies as much as I once did. But it was good.
I have my own tiger here. His name is Firefly, and he is very much afraid. He's always afraid. He's a scaredy cat.
That sounds like my Yog. He just like has the constant like surprised eyes. Just like everything is very scary to him, and he runs, even though he lives a strange life because he loves the pets, but he runs when you try to go to pet him sometime. So it's a very difficult life.
Cats are menaces. I like the film too, which is arguably a little surprising because, it was after I watched it, I looked up a couple of reviews and what other people were saying about it, and everyone was like, oh, it's just this, it's a new Guillermo del Toro, and it harkens back to Pan's Labyrinth and Devil's Backbone. And what's funny is that, I'm not super hot in Pan's Labyrinth, and I never finished Devil's Backbone. So, so something about this compared to his films was working for me. That said, though, I do kind of agree that it's kind of a stretch to call it a horror movie. Sure. Like, as much as I'm in need to fill out what my top 10 is going to be, or our top 10 is going to be, come when the time comes, I don't think I could count this as a horror movie. I'd put it.
it's tough.
And it's super weird because this is a horror movie podcast, and the first thing we're saying about this is that it's not really a horror movie. But like everyone's calling it a horror movie. Everyone's saying it's one of the best. And there are tense scenes in here. Don't get me wrong. There's tense scenes where villains with guns are chasing the kids, and like it's it's hard hitting, and it's kind of beautiful in places. Like I love the music. The score is really beautiful and kind of adds this sort of childlike adventure to the whole thing, which gives it and the kid actors are great. The direction of the kid actors is phenomenal.
Like everything, it's a very, very well made movie. So that's like I feel like I should be saying like, oh my god, this is amazing, it's the best movie of the year. But like I don't know, it's like you said, all that stuff really works well, and it looks really good. Like the cinematography is great, and everything's working really well on it. I don't know, I feel like as I was watching it, it just I don't know, everything was just kind of like what I expected it was going to be.
There was some surprises for me. Well, I'll get into that in spoilers because this this is deep into it. But not that there's not elements that are also predictable, because there are. But I think it's a weird thing to do, because we're going to obviously continue talking about. We're going to talk about what makes the movie work, what makes it good, and get into it. But we have to kind of preface this by saying that it's really not much of a horror movie, and everyone's kind of calling, and I get why it is, because the situation the kids are in is horrific, right? And the world they're in is awful, and it's kind of this real life grounded horror, if you will, and the fantastical elements have a couple of horror moments in them, but ultimately it doesn't ever becomes this horror movie in the way that you traditionally think of a horror movie. And that's not it's not a negative. It's just for the context of being talked about on this show, we have to kind of mention that it's not really a horror movie. So, but yeah, Tiger's Not Afraid is a touching story, and I think the best thing it's got going for it is the kid actors mainly, but I think the overall sort of sense of childlike adventure, even though they're in this really dark world, they somehow still keep that kind of childlike journey going to it, where there's this wonder of just getting things because they're so hard done by. They don't have anything. They're living on the street. When they find something that's remotely pleasant, it's like their eyes light up, and it's like you get it. And that stuff really works.
Yeah, I like a lot of those scenes where they'll find some food or a toy or something, and these kids are in such a grave situation. They're so hardened that it almost feels like you can kind of forget that they're kids at some points. But then I like those little glimpses of they'll have a little stuffed animal or something, and they'll get all excited about it. And it's like, oh yeah, no, these are still kids at heart, and it's really, really messed up what they have to go through.
Yeah, because there's some text at the start that explains how long this drug war's been going, and how extreme it is, and how there's entire towns and cities that are basically just abandoned because of how rough it's been. I mean, the movie obviously is very hard hitting in places, but it has this kind of childlike optimism of maybe things can get better. That maybe, because the whole idea of the title, of course, is Tigers Are Not Afraid. There's a story told about a tiger that one of the kids says in the movie that ultimately is about the idea that this tiger survives this hardship and it comes out on the other side and is not afraid and is stronger for it. And it's basically them kind of almost wanting to believe that about themselves. It's kind of like a self, not a motto, but a self philosophy. Tigers are not afraid. We should not be afraid. We are stronger for living through this kind of idea, and that's what the movie kind of is about. And it's a really quick watch as well. It's 90 minutes, and
I did love that.
It's a very long movies recently. This is great. Yeah, we were recording 3 episodes today, and I will say the one good thing that's shared across all 3 movies is they're all 90 minutes long, which is good, which is very good. So I could have watched 2 of these in the time it took to watch It Chapter 2. 2 of them.
Yeah.
But so No, the movie's very good. I don't know. I do not want to disparage anyone from watching it because it is actually a really solid movie. Yeah. It's up there in terms of some of the best stuff I've seen this year. It's just I wouldn't necessarily put it on a horror list. I wouldn't count it as one of the best horror movies of the year because I don't think it fits there.
No, I agree with that. And then I think it's the timing, I think also does a little bit of a disservice because like if this is just a random movie in like June that we're just doing on a regular episode, I think maybe it would work a little better versus Octoberthon where everything is so drenched in horror and, you know, you're doing all these like classic, like, you know, slashers and franchise stuff and just everything's really, you know, like upping the ante in terms of the horror and everything to have something that's maybe not in that mold feels a little off. But again, I feel bad for saying that because it is a really great movie. You know, just warning though, it is a depressing movie. So if you're the kind of person that doesn't like want to be reminded of this stuff, it's probably not a good watch.
It is pretty depressing, but like I say, it's also kind of oddly hopeful. There's a lot of hope in.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah.
So. No,
I agree with that.
That's it. I will say I won't go into why until spoilers, which we'll do soon. But I want to make this very clear. This movie does not pull punches.
No.
This movie does not pull punches.
Well, let me ask you this. So when they did do like, you know, the kind of like fantasy parts, how do you feel about like the CGI that they used? Because I thought it was like pretty good. I was surprised. Maybe I shouldn't say surprised, but yeah.
It's not always great. It's kind of a little hit and miss. Sometimes it kind of it asks for more than what they're really capable of at the budget. I think here's the thing though, is that if the story is good and you're invested in the characters, you forgive some, you know, weaker CG because you're just invested in what's going on. So when the one that really sticks out for me in this is like a stuffed animal walks around, you know, at one point. I thought that looked really kind of fake, and it looked really CG, and it was kind of like, okay, I accept it. It is what it is. But you know, I was so wrapped up in the world, and the film it's almost a little more frustrating that there's a couple of moments like that where the CG is really kind of obviously fake, because the movie does look really good, and it has such a distinct visual style that it almost feels more jarring than it, you know, at least when in like some dumb action movie when there's some stupid CG things, like, well, the movie doesn't actually look that good anyway, so it kind of fits the overall aesthetic of just everything feeling cheap and shit. But this does not look that way. This looks really slick. It looks very well directed, lots of good use of lighting and shadows, and you know, it really makes a character out of the city and the rooftops and all the sort of abandoned buildings that they're kind of sneaking through and living in, and all that kind of stuff. Really good attention to its overall aesthetic. It has a really you know, really good strong feeling and atmosphere and things like that, which is the sort of thing that's one of the first things I really feel is missing in like a purely directed like VOD movie or, you know, direct to video movie. And obviously some are still good, but it's one of those things I always have a hard time describing. And I should really just sum it up by saying there's like no atmosphere in this movie, but because they'll end up feeling clinical or whatever. But this is rich in character, and I'm not talking about the characters themselves, although it is rich in those, but it's rich in character of the world, it's rich in character of its setting and its surroundings and all that stuff. Yeah.
No, I agree with that. I think I think maybe I was a little more into the CGI than you. And maybe it's because it's used sparingly, like, you know, versus like, you know, a shitty Hollywood movie where it would be jumping out at you like every 5 seconds or whatever. And like you said, it comes in moments that fits the story. But I think I was kind of expecting maybe like a little expecting it to be like a little bit worse because, you know, I'm assuming this is a, you know, like a lower budget movie, you know, not because it's like foreign, but, you know, because it's like a, you know, like an indie release. It's not like, you know, a huge big thing, but I mean, I don't know, maybe in Mexico or whatever, maybe it was a bigger budget movie, I don't know, but I think I assumed like in those cases that usually the CGI will be a little worse, but I was surprised.
Well, I mean, I do want to make it clear though that, you know, the moment I talked about the stuffed animal, I actually really like that moment in the film because what it does dramatically for the moment I actually really like. So as much as I'm saying that the CG looks a bit, you know, obvious, it, you know, like the actual moment itself for what happens with the character is actually very sweet. So I don't want to complain about it too much because I actually think the story beat works very well. So yeah, so and that's another thing. If it feels justifiable, like no, there's a reason why we're doing this moment, and it's not just to have an effect. It's not just to have like a wow moment. Then
yeah,
sure, I'll be a lot more forgiving. So
cool.
Yeah. So we'll give a spoiler warning. I think we'll give a spoiler warning for Tigers Are Not Afraid. So before we go into the spoilers, though, as always, I will tell you about. Actually, you know what I want. I think my voice deserves a rest. Tim, why don't you tell the viewers and listeners about Patreon?
Sorry, are you asking me to do it?
Yes.
Sorry, the internet cut out. I'm having trouble hearing.
Deer in the headlights. Deer in the headlights.
Yeah, I mean, go to Patreon, patreon.com/mildfuzztv. You can get all these perks for as little as $1 a month. You can get extra episodes where we usually talk about kind of the crazier, more sillier, batshit kind of movies, especially good for this month because we're doing 4 bonus movies, so that's a lot. And then you get voting privileges. We'll have 2 votes up you can vote for, and hey, you get a lot of fun extra stuff for a really small cost. And hey, you're helping us out. We especially this time of the year, we put out a lot of episodes. I'm sure we make it look easy, but it does take a lot of work. And Lord knows, we could use some compensation for that. But hey, you don't have to give anything if you don't want to. We always just appreciate you checking out the episodes, following us, giving us a 5-star rating on your podcast listening device of choice. All that stuff really helps. So there you go. Don't be afraid to be a tiger. Don't be afraid to support us.
Oh, that went about as well as I could have probably hoped.
People are going to be raving about it. They're going to come out of the episode saying, oh my God, we don't even want episodes. We just want to hear Tim promote stuff.
All right, so full spoilers for Tigers Are Not Afraid. So the film kind of starts, the inciting incident is that we have the two main kids that we'll refer to a lot are Estrella, who's a little girl, who is in a school at the start of the film, and there's a shooting. The bullets are coming through the window, so all the kids go under the desks, and the teacher is on the floor with them and sort of says, hey, here's like 3 pieces of chalk, this means you have 3 wishes, and some of the fantasy comes from her making her wishes throughout the film. And then the other main character, the main kid, is Shine, who is already living on the street, and he steals a phone and a gun from a gangster kind of quietly as the guy's throwing up, and this phone that he has is a big plot point. This is the MacGuffin for the film because there's some incriminating footage on there that someone else wants back. So well, the guy who stole it from wants it back as well, Kako or Keiko or whatever you say his name, but we also have this other guy who's in the footage who wants it as well. So there's a whole thing. But Estrella goes home and her mother's missing. She's just not there. She was expecting to see her mother and she's just not there. And, eventually gets hungry, and having seen Shine and his little group of kids that he hangs out with on the roof across the street, goes and joins them at one point, and it kind of forms the ragtag group, and the adventures kind of begin from there. So yeah, I like the fantasy stuff when it comes in. We have this kind of trail of blood that kind of like sort of comes into the scene whenever Estrella is either scared or in danger. It tends to be the times, or it's almost like it's guiding her at some points as well. It's kind of like following her and leading her to things.
It seems like that, and then like the voice of her mother, which obviously we're into spoilers now, so it's and that, I mean, I think you kind of assume it pretty early on, but her mother's dead, and then usually we'll get like the blood kind of leading her or something, or you'll actually hear her mother's voice or kind of see glimpses of her, and it is kind of like a guiding force, like helping her out to survive, and like telling her where she needs to go, or like things she needs to do to help get her out of like whatever trouble or anything she's in. The one thing I do want to mention about the opening scene in the school here, I like the way this it sets up kind of like the city, the kind of the space that you're living in, where it's very shocking, obviously, what's happening, but also the kind of degree to where you get the sense that this is also like a little commonplace.
Yeah, it's not
like like it seemed and unfortunately it's kind of a little relevant nowadays where it's not even like out of the realm of possibility. Like this kind of stuff would happen a lot more often in like America and stuff nowadays too, which is upsetting. But just seeing like the degree which like everyone immediately knows to get under their desk, and like the teacher's trying to keep everyone calm, and then the next day when she's trying to go to school and they have it closed, and it seems like they shut it down like the way you would have like a like a snow day or something, like where it's just kind of like, oh no, like don't go into school today, and then seeing the kids like playing like limbo with the like caution tape. It's like a really stark way to kind of just like jump people into this world.
That's an image that says a lot about this world, is that children playing limbo with caution tape. Like, that's just an image right there. I like what you were saying earlier, where like these kids are in this world, but then also they're still like being kids in it. Like they have to deal with it, but like they're trying to make the best of it, where you see them playing with these things that you would normally try to like shield them away from. Yeah. No, the movie does a really good job of setting in its world like right away. And I think we have to, one of the things we have to talk about here is that this movie is not scared to kill kids. And not only just kill the kids, but kill them in ways that are really shocking. So there's two big child deaths in this, which really stuck out to me. There's the young kid who, when the gangsters are coming for them, and one of them's got, I think Estrella, the young kid gets the gun that was stolen previously and shoots the bad guy and puts him down. So the fact that we've got this young kid, because this kid's younger than the rest of them, he's like 5 compared to their 10 through 12 ages or whatever, and this is already kind of shocking in and of itself. But there's more than one gangster, and when the second one comes in, he shoots the kid. And you don't see it hit him, but you do immediately cut to him afterwards, and it's like, no, he's been shot in the stomach, he's dying, and he dies. The kid is dead, and it is really dark. And it's like, and they treat it as if, and this is the thing I love about this, is that there's no main. Well, obviously there's the villains, but there's no good adult characters. The only one that you can count is the teacher at the start, but she's gone from the movie after this point. So for the rest of the film, it is the kids and they're on their own, and they have to deal with everything. And I guess that's just true to because the story this is trying to tell is the kids who have been left behind like this. So it makes it just them. It makes it just their story, and there's no one they can go to for help. In fact, there's one scene where one of them tries to go to the police for help, and the police just roll up their windows and drive away when they realize who the bad guys are that are after them. They're like, no, we're not dealing with this.
Yeah, that was like super. That was super depressing, because you kind of think that all right, no matter how bad stuff gets, there are people that you can turn to, and then as soon as they show them the phone and the police realize who they're dealing with, they they don't even try to give the kids any tips, like, oh, give the phone back to them or something. They just immediately drive away, and it really helps paint the picture of okay, they are completely on their own. And and I go into that shooting scene. That was definitely probably the the saddest part of the movie for me, because again, everyone is all small, little kids, but especially that young kid, was it, I think his name began with an M, was it Melito or something like that?
I am looking on IMDb. I don't think I has the full list on IMDb.
I mean, I apologize. Obviously, I'm a dumb American, and I can't remember the foreign names.
I have trouble remembering names in most things we watched, regardless of what country it's from.
But you can see they were especially he was so young. Probably just a couple of years younger than the rest of the kids, but he just really stood out as being young, and they kind of if you felt like they were trying to take care of him, and almost being even more adultish around him because he was such a kid.
Well, that's why the weird juxtapositions of these types of characters is that they are still kids. They still have kid-like wants and needs, but they're forced to grow up fast in a lot of different ways because they're on their own. They have to like find food. They have to care about these things. So it gives you that, and they give him like a funeral. They cover him up, and they blame. And they blame Estrella because Estrella was sent to kill the first main sort of bad guy we know, the one that had the phone stolen from. It was like Kaka or Keka, or I'm not sure how to pronounce his name.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, because obviously I'm reading subtitles, and while they're saying it, they're speaking very fast in Spanish. I don't catch like the pronunciation of these things. Yeah. But they send her in because he's actually kidnapped a young kid. They've got kids in cages who they save, and some of them end up getting back to their bigger brother at one point. But the extra kids that we sort of like collect here, who weren't a part of the original team, but they get him back. But she was sent to kill this guy with a gun, and she instead uses her wish that she doesn't, she wishes she doesn't have to kill him, and then it's revealed that he's already dead, and she takes it as her wish was granted. But we are like, nah, someone else already killed him. Yeah, which is what it turns out to be. And there's this bigger, badder mob boss who wants the phone because there's footage of him like torturing and murdering someone, and of course we find out later that that's her mother. It's Estrella's mother who was murdering and torturing, just because they wanted to murder and torture someone. Like it seems like that's all the only reason why. Yeah. There's no other reason given. Not that anything would justify it, but it feels like it's just done purely for fun.
Sure.
But yeah, so they kind of blame her because they see her as lying to them. So they're kind of mad at her for a little bit. But ultimately, like, they call him and make a deal to come in and give him the phone, and they basically say that the one thing they want in return is that they want him to like get rid of the local gang, because obviously even though they've killed, or they've not killed, but even though Kaka or whoever his name is has been taken out, his like brothers and henchmen are still kind of like making the streets very dangerous for them because they're around. And they say, hey, if you can take out this gang for us, and when they say take out, they don't mean kill them. They just mean, can you stop, take them out of the town, like take them away from us. He's like, sure, we'll do that. And it leads to the big final sort of sequence of the film where they come down and they give him the phone, they see the footage, and the villains don't, because he's not got the passcode for it. But so this main bad guy, Chino, just kills the two guys out of there, and he's like, hey, we had a deal, that's them gone. It's very visceral and violent. They weren't expecting them to just kill them in front of the kids. But then he gets pissed off within seconds. They're just round the corner, and they're talking about going back, and Shine, who again is like one of our two main characters, is shot in the face, and we see this. We see the gunshot go through his face, the bullet. And it's in the cheek, and then he dies, and it leaves Estrella on her own, and she is truly on her own, and she's this is her being hunted, and this is the big final act, and the CGI stuff like tigers like leading her around, as is the blood, which leads her to her mother and all of the other victims, because there's like an incinerator room, or not even an incinerator, just like a room where they've dumped all these bodies, because this is where they torture people. And she's basically like, hey, lead them here to where we are. The idea being that all these ghosts are going to get their revenge if she can, take them there. And she does, and there's some really suspenseful stuff. But the main thing I wanted to say is just how goddamn brutal like Shine being shot in the face is. Like, he's one of our main kid characters, and it's like visceral. It's on the screen, and it's it was genuinely quite shocking. And I always joke when I'm talking about movies that, like, we shouldn't be afraid of killing kids in movies, and I stand by that. But this is the effect that it has, because it's not done that often. Is that, and I'm not saying we should do it willy-nilly, but sometimes in horror movies the kids are safe. Like, the kid character's always the safe one, because of the kid. And I don't feel that should be the case. Like, there's no reason why we should feel bad about killing a kid in a movie. It's not real. It's the same as killing an adult. Like, it doesn't matter.
Oh yeah, definitely. No, it's a fake movie. So who cares? Well, I mean, in this case, though, it's like a. I mean, it feels like a little bit more real than like some crazy, but like zombie movie or something.
The reason why it works is not because he's a kid. The reason why it works is because the movie's been well written and we care about the character. So it's shocking. Definitely. It's shocking because these two characters have. Because at the start of the movie, Shane wants nothing to do with Australia. He basically thinks she has cooties. It's like, oh, you're not on our team. Like, no. But no, he like by this point they've kind of bonded, and he's helped her out in places, and they've helped each other out. So it's really hard hitting this moment. So. Yeah,
and I forget.
Yeah, there you go.
And I'm sorry, and I forget, what was her? Did she make a final wish with Shine? Because I know, like, was her last wish to like make his scar go away?
Yeah.
Or was that earlier?
No, that was right before he gets shot. Yeah.
Okay,
like,
yeah.
She's trying to prove that she has a wish, and he's trying to prove that there's no wish. And she's like, "Hey," she's like, "I wish this scar would disappear." And again, it's this kind of like this dark irony of the gunshot technically by having a hole there now, is that not a scar anymore?
I get,
You know, technically by being dead, there's no scar there. Like, you know, like there's this sort of like monkey's paw element to the wish, which, you know, I think this ending is actually, I mean, obviously it's very tense and really sort of visceral, but the actual final ending where after like he's trapped, you know, after the bad guy's trapped in the room and it's on fire, and she walks into the hall and there's a tiger, because the story that Shine told way back at the start to the other kids is that, you know, the gangs killed this guy who owned all these like you know, animals, you know, had lions, tigers, pumas, blah blah, and the tiger got out of the cage though and killed some of the gang members and is just roaming the streets, and he's the king of the city, right? And we just take this as a fable, like it's not real. And you can even take this as not real. This is still just in our head at the end, because obviously all the fantasy stuff is very open to, is any of it remotely real? Or because even though I said that she leads them to this room with all these bodies as if the ghost will keep him in there so that he'll not hurt anyone else, it's very much like, no, the fire that starts isn't the ghost. So, you know, it's like it happens just because it happens. And like, you know, is there actually any real supernatural thing? Is this just the way she thinks, in the same way that, you know, the other kids have to think about the stories that Shine tells them? Is this just her coping mechanism, all the stuff that we're seeing?
Right, yeah, I was just gonna say, like, yeah, it feels like a coping mechanism, like with like everything, so much horrific stuff is going on that, like, yeah, a child would have to use their imagination to you know, kind of like process and deal with all these things. The
idea that like the tiger stuff comes from Shine, and that she sees the stuffed tiger helping her, like, guide her through the events and stuff, and then after the bad guy's trapped in the room, after Chino's like dying, and she was into the you know, the main sort of hallway, this open hallway, that this place, whatever this building is, and there's a tiger, and the idea is it's this tiger, it's the tiger that survived and has been roaming the streets, and she just like stares at it, and the tiger like lies down and doesn't want to hurt her, because the tiger, like, it's like she's like showing she's not afraid, because tigers are not afraid, and B, this tiger has no beef with her, because she's just like the tiger's just like her. He's been left behind, just like she has.
And I like, it's like a nice progression. Like it feels like the tiger keeps getting more and more real, because like the first thing we kind of see is like the imagery of this spray painted tiger on a wall.
Yeah, Shine's graffitied this like cartoony tiger.
Yeah, and I like when they would go to that and like they'd show it kind of move around like with that animation. I thought that looked cool. But then like you go from that to like a stuffed tiger, so it's like, all right, it's a little more real, but you know, it's still like a little cartoony kind of thing, until finally at the end you have you know, this actual real like tiger that's like appearing in front of her.
Because like I say, I like the idea that it transitions from just her imagination to taking in what Shine's was, like taking in the tiger element. The idea that shows her progression from becoming not afraid, because the final shot's beautiful as well, because she opens the door and it's like to a field, and it feels very dreamlike almost. But yeah, again, the main piano music that's been playing, that's been very touching the whole film, plays as she's staring at this tiger, and it's a really great moment. Like, I was like, oh, I'm really into this. Like, I'm really invested, even if not every single fantasy bit, you know, because there's a couple of points when her dead mother's talking to her and she's got this cloak on, and she's like the woman in black almost from that movie, and I'm like, yeah, I don't really care, I don't really like how she looks, but it didn't matter because I'm invested in Estrella's story. I like the story of these kids. It's almost like what I said about the first It movie, where I really like the kids stuff, but the horror stuff's not that great, except in this case I think this is much better than It Chapter 1, because I think it's more about the kid's story. The horror stuff is just this little flavor on top. It's not. It's there as a coping mechanism, arguably not even real. And there's so many sweet scenes. You know, there's a whole thing where Estrella promises the younger kids at one point that she's going to take them to like a house that has like a football field and a swimming pool. And they find this like abandoned building, and there's like a sort of like just like this water like sort of like puddle that's gotten really big, but there's some fish swimming in it, and to the kids this is the swimming pool, and then they find like a football or a soccer ball, just to make it clear what I'm talking about, in the basement, and like, oh hey, here's where we can play soccer. So it's this like, again, this idea of like, obviously we think of one thing when she says that, and then the kids kind of make that out of these small things that kind of represent to them what they wanted.
Yeah, with so many like, dangerous, crazy things going on. I do like that it, tries to incorporate a lot of these like really sweet scenes between the kids just being kids, and then yeah, like around that those kind of same scenes they they're putting on like a little like talent show kind of thing, or a whatever, one of those like reality show competition things, which like was like, oh, like this is like a really like fun example of like they've just been through like all this shit, but they still want to pretend and like put on a show and have fun, which is really sweet, but then also just really like heightens all the other like horrific stuff that goes on. Yeah,
every time the gang members are like after them, it's really tense and really suspenseful. Like the first time they just chase them a little bit in the rooftops, and then later on, when they actually come guns blazing and kill one of the kids, and then eventually the final showdown with Chino, like all of that stuff is just really well handled and really like scary. And like you're saying, so is it a horror movie? Like, nah, I'd say it's more of a really dark drama, I guess is maybe what I'd actually call it.
I'd agree.
But it's a great movie. Like I recommend checking it out. If it's one of those movies where maybe not in the top 10 horror movies, but I think when I'm doing my top 10 movies of the year, it could appear on there.
Oh, sure.
It's a really touching little film that I think works for me, and I'm probably the minority here, but it works for me in a way that I think Del Toro's movies that is apparently inspired by don't work. I think there's just something a little bit different about this director's voice that kind of worked for me in this.
That's fair. But I mean, obviously, I probably do mostly watch like mostly horror movies for this show. But I mean, it is nice to watch other stuff. And like you said, I wouldn't put this in the horror category, but it definitely doesn't mean that people shouldn't watch it. Like if you like really beautiful, well-made movies and aren't afraid of stuff that might be a little hard hitting, then it's definitely worth checking out. Of course, if you just like CGI clowns jumping out at you, then maybe don't watch it. But
also, did I hear a request on there to watch some non-horror movies? I feel like Tim just pitched a new podcast called like Thrills Afternoon, which is the non-horror equivalent of Streams After Midnight.
No. My schedule is too busy for that.
That's right. Just clear out some of that wife time. We'll do the afternoon show.
I mean, I don't even know. Like, what else do I like other than the comic book movies that we're all forced to watch? I don't know. Every now and again, actually, this weekend I watched some other stuff. I watched some like comedies. That's
Hey, you say we're all forced to watch superhero movies, but I don't think any of us went to see Dark Phoenix at the theater. That's
true. That's the grip is starting to loosen a little bit.
A line has been drawn in the sand where it has to look this good to go see it. Because I'll be honest, like, if it wasn't for the fact that I do a DC Comics podcast, I don't know if I'd have cared about going to see Aquaman when I was in theaters. I could have waited. I wasn't in a rush.
I didn't watch Aquaman until it was on wait, did I? Oh wait, maybe I did see it in theaters. I don't even remember. I didn't see it like opening weekend, that's for sure though.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, I did just for review purposes, but I mean that's the only reason why. I didn't need Aquaman in my life that quickly. Aqua Bro is maybe a more accurate title, but Tigers of Dark Fate is very good, and I think it's a movie that's well worth seeing, even if it's not necessarily quite the same horror movie that we would typically cover. So check it out. It's on Shudder. It's easy to get to. And support interesting movies like this that feel like they have a unique voice. I am definitely in for it. Issa López is the director. I assume that's how you pronounce the first name. Issa. Issa? Does that sound right?
Probably.
Issa.
I mean, I'm not any better at pronouncing, but I mean, this is like I see like film people like a lot of people love this movie. I see people talking about it. Like, obviously it's not like, a big mainstream thing, but I think it's getting a lot of praise and people are digging it. So I'm sure that we will definitely see Hollywood try to scoop this person up, and who knows, maybe force them to make one of those dreaded comic book movies that we fear so much. But I'm sure we'll definitely be seeing more from this person.
Hey, if they want to have her make what's a good comic book character for this director, just based on this movie?
Swamp Thing?
Yeah, sure, I'll take a Swamp Thing back. Wash the taste of that awful TV show out my mouth. That upsets me, Timmy. That upsets me. So yeah, I guess we're going to rate Tigers Are Not Afraid. Tim, what are you going to give the movie?
I think I'll give it an 8.5. Again, it's like everything about it is really well made. The acting's great, story's great. Music, cinematography, everything's firing on all cylinders. Maybe the few things like I might just maybe stop it from getting like going higher than that is just maybe just some of the stuff is like a little too depressing. So it's definitely not like a fun movie. Like, it is good movie to watch, but it is it's not like something that I'll be like, oh hell yeah, I want to watch something tonight, like, yeah, let me boot this up, you know what I mean? Like, it is a little depressing, and I'm already a depressed guy. I don't need to feel more depressed than I already am.
Well, that's a delightful summary. I am going to concur with the 8.5. It's something that maybe could go up on repeat viewings, but it's a wonderful little cast. It's a wonderful piece of direction and style, and very touching film in places. I think maybe some of the fantasy stuff, particularly with the dead mother. I like the stuff with the stuffed tiger. I liked all the stuff with the theme of the tiger and the graffiti movie and all that stuff. Maybe some of the stuff with the dead mother and the bloodline felt a bit more like the sort of horror that I'm not as into. But it's such a small part of the movie, though, it doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't detract too much from it. But yeah, so it's actually even shorter than I mentioned. It's 83 minutes long. It is a quick watch. Nice. So if you're someone who enjoys a movie with subtitles and you want something touching and a bit hard hitting, in a way, again, I think the fact, because the way it treats the kids in this, like, they're actually in danger, it separates it from what you would get from Hollywood. It feels unique. It's in the same way that a lot of the humor in a Korean cinema, for example, doesn't translate well to Hollywood movies, is because it's just unique. It's their voice, and it can't be replicated. So there you go. Tigers Are Not Afraid. Really good movie. Not really a horror movie, but a really good movie. So. But you can, of course, like and subscribe. You can let us know what you thought of Tigers Are Not Afraid in the comments below. And you can do things like check out other shows we have. Obviously, it's the Octoberthon. We have a lot of episodes coming. But also a sci-fi movie podcast that we do called The Ace, the Atomic Cinema Experiment. I do that with Tara. And then there's also a bunch of TV reviews and the aforementioned DC Comics podcast, Comics from the Multiverse. But that is us. So thank you once again for watching or listening. Keep having a happy October. Look forward to Halloween. Keep watching scary movies, guys. And we will see you next time.